What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Streckbein, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers. We are talking culture. We are talking TJ Watt. We are talking Justin Simmons. And we are talking how a member of the Rooney family probably got a pretty nasty phone call from those in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. But we'll dive into that and more. As always, shout out to our members and our super chatters. And one more time before tomorrow, make sure you are entering to win the Chubbies a golf polo that we will be giving away tomorrow at some point. We'll figure it out. It's a beautiful one here in the Berg. It's been a beautiful one all day. How you feeling, my friend?
Good, man. I'm doing good. The boyish charm that is my clean-shaven face continues to pervade the air, so to speak. And I am just loving it as we creep towards the weekend. I'm doing all right. I'm doing probably better than this particular member of the Rooney family that you mentioned a moment ago. But
No
all
doubt.
things considered, man, it's good over here. It's good in my basement. The air conditioning's still working, so we have another day of me wearing a sweatshirt. So good vibes over here for Mr. Puntori.
What do you do when you leave your house? Do you take the sweatshirt off? Do you just sweat a little bit?
Yeah, I just sweat. I mean, like, there is unfortunate realities. I have to go outside at some point, and then I just have to sweat. I've invested in a slew of devices to help mitigate the sweat. It doesn't work. So, again, if you ever see me in the wild or just out in public, I apologize.
Yeah. Fantastic. I spent my day at a coffee shop. Shout out to Spagnoli. I don't know. It's over in Edgewood. Super good vibes, but they only have outdoor seating, and that's where I went to work today. And I came back a little sweaty, which is fine. But I just picture you every day with a little coat hook outside your door, and you just take your sweatshirt off, you put it on, and then you come in the house and you go, "Ooh, chilly," and then you put it back on, and then you go on with your day. That's how I picture it every day. Which I hope that's true. Yeah, I'm glad. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. TJ Watt. We've talked TJ Watt. I was just on Penn Live's podcast with Nick Fairbaugh about half hour ago, and we were talking TJ Watt. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with TJ Watt. Me and him both dove into, and it was hilarious because he wouldn't say it because they're a clean podcast, so he was like, I got this aggressive text about TJ Watt. And I was like, yeah, we're on YouTube, dude. You could say that he said, fuck no, that's allowed to happen. But we both agreed that TJ is most likely going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, that it's very close to, I don't want to say guarantee, but like I threw out the number 95%. Like I feel 95% confident that TJ Watt's going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do I think it's going to happen today, tomorrow, or anytime soon? No. But is it going to happen before week 1 of the NFL season? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Well, one member of the Rooney family feels otherwise. Good old Patrick Rooney Jr. said this on the PBKC Picks podcast, which, excuse the PBKC Picks podcast, but I don't know what that is. Quote, TJ is a great player, great Steeler, insane. Let me say that one more time. Insane to pay him anything right now. Absolutely insane. He's 31 years old, but again, if you're going all in this year, then you're going to have to re-sign him. But again, you're making moves right now that you're trying to do something for this year. That, to me, based on anything you've seen in the last recent years, just doesn't make sense. Absolutely insane, Jacob. Absolutely insane. First off, and I don't want to bash a member of the Rooney family, but I'm definitely going to take a shot or two. Patrick Rooney Jr., dude, you don't have Art or Dan. I don't even know who you are. I probably do know who he is, to be honest, and I apologize. But, like, you don't have a Rooney name. Okay, it's the third name. You're not running the Steelers. Secondly, I guarantee you he got a pretty nasty phone call from somebody in the family saying, hey, dude, you should shut up and stop talking because This is not what we need right now. And third, I'm going to be honest. I think there's an argument to be made of why not to pay TJ, but to call it absolutely insane is absolutely insane, because you pay TJ Watt, and there's an argument to not pay TJ Watt, but it's not this mind blowing, over the top, there is no question about it decision of, oh, you could never pay TJ Watt. No, can you make the argument? Yeah, you could make the argument. Absolutely insane, aggressive, for sure. You heard this one, dude. Outside of the fact that this is not Art Rooney II, which is the second part of this. Again, I'm going to take a couple of shots. I don't care. The second part of Junior. When was the last time you saw an owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers with a junior? No, we seconds and thirds, pal. That's what we do here in the Rooney family tree. If you ever look at it, it's literally just a tree of this. I think it's the grandfather. The grandson gets named after the grandfather, and then it's a second, and then it's a third, two later. It's wild how it goes. Every once in a while, they toss in a Jim or John, but there's Patrick Jr. I don't know, man. I'm not. This is not where I'm getting my Rooney advice, but still, does it say anything to you? Do you feel any type of way that a member of the Rooney family is out here talking smack on TJ Watt?
Man, no, like, who is this human being? You can listen. Family is this really beautiful thing, but it's also this unmistakably insane thing as well. We all have a cousin who maybe wants to go. You got something?
Patrick Rooney Jr. is a Republican member of the Florida House of Representatives, representing the 85th district, which is Palm Beach, which I'm going to be honest is gorgeous. Guys doing a great job down there. It looks like, except for the fact that gas is $6. So, screw off. Yeah, I'm not joking. $6. Got a rental car, went to Palm Beach for the owners meetings, pulled into a gas station, spent $100 getting gas on a Kia, was super pissed about it, and left. So maybe not doing the greatest job, but that's who Patrick Rooney Jr. is.
Excellent. Now my whole opinion has changed drastically. Maybe Patrick Rooney Jr. knows a lot about Palm Beach and shares the last name with the family that owns the Steelers, but his input means nothing to me. And him saying it is insane, and saying that TJ Watt being extended is some sort of outlandish idea for the Steelers to take tells me all I need to know about this sort of person's opinion. He can have it, they're like armpits and assholes. We all have them, but I don't want to see or smell them, so that's the thing for me. And Patrick Rooney's opinion has fallen into that category, unfortunately. TJ Watt being extended, the argument you can make against it is pretty clear. We've outlined it here multiple times. He's 31. Yeah. He's going to be 32. Can you commit $40 million yearly or $100 million and such guaranteed to a player that is on the wrong side of 30? That's the argument to be made against signing TJ Watt. It's not, we had 11 and a half sacks last year. That's 8 less than the 19 and a half he had the season before. So it would be insane to pay this man, even though he has produced along with the most elite edge rushers in the NFL over that time. So yeah, Pat Rooney, don't think you're getting invited to the Rooney family reunion next summer after those comments. But maybe if you host it in Palm Beach, they'll come visit.
If they host it in but you already know Rooney's got a house in Palm Beach. That's what I was. So you pull up to the NFL owners meetings, and there's all these crazy yachts sitting outside, like insane yachts, dude, like bigger than my house yachts. It's wild. And the day after the owners meeting, they're all gone, and you're going, where'd they all go? They're all the owners' yachts. They just came in their yachts and then left in their yachts, which is absolutely mind blowing. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I came up with a resolution with Nick on his podcast a little bit ago that I think works itself out. Let me toss this your way. TJ Watt, the holdup from my understanding is the guaranteed money. That is the issue that TJ and the Pittsburgh Steelers are having is there's some conflict on when the guaranteed money should end. TJ wants it to go into year 3, which is his 33rd year, and the Steelers are looking at it going, you're going to be 33 years old. That's definitely a risk that we'd be taking, and maybe a risk that we're not willing to take. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers, how would you handle this? Up the average salary. So you look at it and go, because right now the offer on the table for TJ Watt, from what I've been told, is higher than Myles Garrett, right around that 41 a year mark. But the guaranteed money is not what Watt is looking for. Would you up the guarantee, or would you up the yearly salary, 42, maybe $43 million a year, which is insane, but that's an option, to reduce the guaranteed money? Or would you feel comfortable holding a guarantee at a 33-year-old or for a 33-year-old and keep his average salary right there around $41 million?
Now, truly, I don't know what would be the best financial decision for the Steelers, and so I will posit that first. But I would be of the mind to increase the guaranteed money, and that is, a sort of along the lines of what I have been talking about the Steelers doing as soon as Myles Garrett signed his extension. Was, can they just beat I think it's 121 or $123 million that Myles Garrett was guaranteed in his new contract. Yeah. So if that's the goal, I would say let's up that, reduce the yearly salary, and let's just, if the sticking point is guaranteed money, I think the Steelers can take the hit on that if it allows them to make TJ Watt happy, keep him signed. And then, as we're already not to get too off topic, but I was looking at over the cap today, if the Steelers, it seems like cleared money somehow by trading Minkah Fitzpatrick and adding
Jalen. The more that comes out of the Jalen contract, it's looking like the cap hit on Jalen Ramsey is going to be like $6-7 million this year. That is it.
Yeah, it's absurd, right? And so I'm seeing that, and in my mind I'm going, okay, so just guarantee the money, make it a signing bonus, do whatever contract manipulation mumbo jumbo you have to do, because you'll be able to fill out the roster regardless. If the argument against giving him, a $35+ million of yearly salary against the cap, is that it reduces the ability to bring in anyone else. Well, just no. The Steelers cleared out. They brought in 2 players that cost millions of dollars and somehow gained cap space for this upcoming season. So it's all fake, and I don't understand how it works. So all that means to me, just give him the guaranteed money, give in on that sticking point, win the deal by signing him, and then go out there and just win a Super Bowl. And I don't care about the guaranteed money anymore.
Do you have, so you don't have concerns about guaranteeing a 33-year-old? Because that's what it would be. So that's from my understanding, and I'm not in the negotiations, but from my understanding, Myles Garrett has a 3rd year guaranteed on his contract. So for Myles Garrett, it's his year 32 season. For TJ, he wants a 3rd year guaranteed contract, which would be his 33-year-old season. So he'd be 33 years old, guaranteed with 30-some million dollars in guaranteed money. That's the holdup. So you're comfortable with that situation?
I am. Any other situation, any other player, or a lot of other situations and players, no, I'm not comfortable with that 30-year guarantee. With TJ Watt, yes, I know there is the concern of health. It has been something that has hampered him before. I just think the elite play and production outmatches that, and the potential to get 3 more years out of that, even at a slightly declined rate, is worth it. And I think will pay off for the Steelers. And I would bet on that rather than go to war over this negotiation to not pay him when he's 33 turning 34. I just think it's just not worth losing the deal over. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm cool with either way. I think if you up his average salary, who cares? Doesn't hurt anything. You have holes to fill for sure, but you don't have a quarterback contract for a while. And it's going to be 5 years after this one before you have to pay a quarterback close to $30 million a year. So you have room to work with. You could pay TJ Watt a lot of money. And I think they're gonna. If you ask Patrick Jr., good old PJ, no. No, they're not gonna. They're insane to do so. But if you ask me and you, they most certainly can. Which brings up a question, okay? There's a lot of conversation right now about TJ Watt, about the moves that the Pittsburgh Steelers have made. And the conversation revolves around the culture of the Pittsburgh Steelers and if that culture is quote unquote gone, which we have this conversation quite often. You know, it feels like every year somebody's like, Steelers culture is dead, man. Steelers, there ain't no culture in Pittsburgh anymore. All right, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. All these moves, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger said it the other day, which Ben said it last year too. Let's be 100% honest. Ben's a media guy now. So you get in a revolving door of saying things. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the things that they have done, the moves that they have made, the changes in the way that they have approached this offseason compared to others. Steelers culture dead, excuse me? Or is it still very much so alive?
I'm going to say something crazy here, Noah.
Hit me with it.
Steelers culture, that the Steelers culture as defined by, I think, are collectively defined here amongst Steelers Nation, I think that culture died about 20 years ago. And I'm not saying it was a good or bad thing. I'm going to leave that part out of it. But I do believe that Steelers culture pretty much went away the day after Ben Roethlisberger got into trouble a second time, and the team kept him around for another decade.
Okay.
The moment that happened, everything else to me became irrelevant. Character concerns, okay, they overlook them sometimes. You know, problems off the field, okay, sometimes they overlook them if it's the right person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if that was the standard of like no nonsense, everything is about the team and everything becomes a distraction. Once that happens, you are no longer embracing the Steelers culture. That has not been the case for the Steelers for a very, very long time. Now, whether you think that's good or bad, I don't mixed opinions. I'm sure it's not for me to decide or be the arbiter of. I don't think Steelers culture, the same one that people talk about defining the steel curtain of the 70s and the 80s and the Chuck Noll offense, or the Chuck Noll Steelers and the Bill Cowher Steelers, I think that went away with the modern era. And again, whether you think that's good or bad, I think is up for a huge debate here. But yeah, I would say Steelers culture is not what it was. It's pretty dead.
I kind of like that take. I didn't see that coming, but I like that take. I mean, you look at it and you even look at the years, you know what I mean? Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount get caught smoking weed in a car. LeGarrette Blount gets caught. Le'Veon Bell gets a little slap on the wrist there. Ben Roethlisberger gets in trouble for a second time. Santonio Holmes gets like I believe it was a smoking weed violation. Santonio Holmes shipped out of town. You're gone. There's nothing to do here. Antonio Brown does everything and anything he possibly can to make himself a menace. Mike Wallace gets pissed that which again, this one didn't add up in time-wise, but Mike Wallace gets pissed for like 10 minutes that he's not getting paid, shipped out of town, gone. Emmanuel Sanders, shipped out of town, gone. This is, you know what I mean? George Pickens is a menace. Deontay Johnson is significantly less of a menace, shipped out of town, gone. You know what I mean? I kind of like it. I like that take. I do like that take. I didn't see it coming when I asked the question. I didn't see you going in that direction, but you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. And at the end of the day, maybe what the culture was is better than what the culture is in terms of trying to win a Super Bowl. Do you feel that way?
Honestly, like the culture now, do I think it's better than the Steelers
to try
culture
and win in the aspect of trying to win a Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm. I'll just be completely candid. I'm okay with the Steelers moving away from the quote unquote Steelers culture. I think what that leaves the possibility of is that this is a more player focused. I'm like you in the sense that like I'm very pro player and I'm very unafraid of it. Like I don't really like, I want TJ Watt to make a bunch of money because I don't want the Rooneys to make a bunch of money, if that makes sense. So like, I would rather TJ Watt get the bag. That being said, that's not really the point right now. I'm pro player in the sense of like, I think a well-built locker room is about more than just off the field sort of character concerns. I think things like teamwork dynamics and being able to join into a collective mindset and join in on a unified goal can outweigh a lot of the things that I think fans, myself, media, and a lot of people consider to be like character concerns that it can be detrimental to a football team. I think the hard line, like rigidness, the strictness of the old Steelers culture is not the way forward anymore. That being said, Steelers haven't won a Super Bowl since 2009. So, there's criticism to be levied against a quote unquote new way of Steelers football, but the old way didn't work anymore. New way hasn't been totally successful yet. I'm still taking my chances with the new way. And I think for right now, we're currently living in that because again, you can point to, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a quote unquote character concern, but you can say and point to a lot of things and a lot of attention he brings and a lot of sort of distractions that he could be attributed to is not in line with Steelers culture. But at the end of the day, they think he's the best fit for this team and to help them win. So that's outweighs it all. So I think it can be beneficial. We just have yet to see how that fully culminates in Pittsburgh.
For real. That's a fantastic response. I did not come into this conversation expecting you to just, drop the knowledge that you've dropped on us in this one. I mean, the comment section is literally just Jacob preach, and they're not wrong. Like, this is exactly how I feel. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that, who cares? Like, the culture, the Steelers way culture left a long time ago, but the wins left a long time ago. And right now, who cares what the culture is? You want to know what we should care about? How to win a Super Bowl, how the Pittsburgh Steelers could get back to their winning ways, because sticking with the Steeler way, sticking with the Steelers culture that does exist still is not working. So, the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect different results. And the Steelers were getting damn near close to insanity. And the fan base is certainly hitting levels of insanity watching it and banging their head off of a wall, trying to get these people to listen to them, to say, please do something different. I credit Omar Khan for that, to be honest. I don't look at Mike Tomlin as a guy that made that change. I think Omar Khan just said, we need to do some things differently. And Mike said, yeah, whatever you see fit. But I did not expect this answer to come from you today. I have like very minimal to add to it because I agree with everything you say. And I think it's pretty spot on with how things are going. So to spin off of that,
please.
Justin Simmons made it known what his preference is to sign to a team, and he is looking for culture, but he's looking for championship StreamYard agrees. He's looking for championship. I dropped that in the Penn Live podcast like an hour ago. At like minute 18, there is a random thumbs up from my MacBook. That happens. He made it known that he's looking for culture. He's looking for championship culture and a contender. He said this to the Denver Post recently, quote, I think Atlanta, I would still pick 10 times out of 10 if I was in the same spot I was last year. But in terms of where I am now, I'm being a little bit more picky about where I go and where I want to call home the next 2 years, a year, whatever. A contender is number one on the list right now. I'll start with a very simple, straightforward question. Are the Pittsburgh Steelers a contender enough for Justin Simmons to consider them?
Yes, and the operative word, the key word there that you stuck in there is enough. Are they the clear-cut favorite in the AFC North or the AFC conference in general? No. But are they good enough on paper right now and optimistic enough right now heading into training camp that Justin Simmons should consider the Steelers? Absolutely. I mean, I imagine I know he went to the NFC, but I would foresee him making a return to the AFC wherever he goes. And you look at sort of the contenders there. You have Kansas City and Buffalo, obviously. You have Baltimore, and then you have like Pittsburgh. You have his former team, the Denver Broncos, and maybe the Chargers or something like that. Maybe the Bengals. Not really sure which of those contending teams makes the most sense or would be quote unquote better contenders than the Steelers in that situation, aside from the Bills and Chiefs, obviously. So I look at that. I think the Steelers are contenders enough. I think the question is, does Justin Simmons want to come into a contending team and take on a significant role, or does he maybe want to join a stronger contending team and take on a minor role, a more supporting role? But it sounds like he wants to be a starting guy on a contending team and contributing to that. And I think the Steelers make a ton of sense if that's everything he's looking for in 2025.
Yes, that is. I feel the same way. I mean, Justin Simmons. There's no point. I mean, Justin Simmons had his worst statistical season last year, but if you watch the tape, Justin Simmons looked pretty good last season. And I don't think there's anything in his game that tells me that he's going downhill or that it's all over or that he'd be better in a contributing role. I just look at him and say, you're a starting safety in the NFL. There aren't that many starting safeties in the NFL. You only get 2 per team, but he fits what the Steelers are looking for. The Steelers need a true free safety. They need somebody to play the deep to say, hey, nobody's getting past me and I'm able to come up with the football. Right now, they don't have that. They have Juan Thornhill, who, give or take, depending on what season you're looking at. Deshaun Elliott, who plays much better in the box. And Miles Killebrew, who's a special teams guy. They don't even have a third safety where we sit today. And people talk, Sebastian Castro, box safety. He is a nickel corner / Deshaun Elliott part 2. That's what he is. He's not a guy that's going to go deep. He's not a guy that's going to protect the middle of the field. That's not what his specialty is, and it's not what the Steelers are going to look for him to do. You need somebody else, and I think Justin Simmons remains the best name that they can go out and get, and I don't think there's much of a question, to be really honest. Like, you have Julian Blackmon, but you'd have to bring him in for a physical and to make sure that he's all good and ready to go, but you still need a third safety. And I think Justin Simmons could come in here and be that guy. And to hear that he wants to go to a contender is refreshing, because he should want to go to a contender, and the Steelers are a contender. They might not be on paper the biggest contender, but nobody in the NFL is sitting around like, guys in the NFL look at the Pittsburgh Steelers much differently than I and the fan base look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nobody's sitting around going, man, Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old. What's going to happen here? They're going, Aaron Rodgers, dude, one of the fourth, third, maybe third greatest quarterback of his generation, arguably, depending on where you put him, where you put, I guess, Patrick Mahomes is technically in his generation, and where you put guys like Drew Brees. But that's what they see. That's what everybody sees. He sees Jalen Ramsey. He sees Darius Slay. He sees TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen. He sees Deshaun Elliott. He sees DK Metcalf. Like, that's what he sees. And that's a contending team. Nobody in the NFL is sitting around going, DK Metcalf's not that good. No, like, they're all saying DK Metcalf is very good. Actually, nobody's talking smack on him. And there are a lot of names in the NFL that people don't know, but there are a lot of names in Pittsburgh that most of the NFL does. And I think because of that, I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers as, in the NFL, when you talk to guys, they probably view the Steelers as a contender. Do you think Pittsburgh's on his radar, though? Do you think Justin Simmons is looking at Pittsburgh? Like, you think that it's a weird name to consider? And in this offseason, compared to others, you look back to a year ago, 2 years ago, Justin Simmons isn't a guy that, like, realistically you think could actually end up in Pittsburgh. I think that's a little bit different where we sit here today.
Agreed. It is hard for me to see Simmons and the Steelers being just like a fit in general, but there is just something about the opportunity that's here. Self plug, I wrote an article about Sebastian Castro recently. And when I was like looking through his tape, I totally agree with the assessment of him being like a Deshaun Elliott light sort of thing, like sure tackler, versatility, whatever.
Yeah.
Talking about who else is going to go into training camp to compete, I legitimately
There's nobody.
I was like, who is that? Daniel McCutcheon. Wasn't he a Pirates relief pitcher? No, that's not. He was a lineman for the Steelers. No, he's here on a possible training camp to compete for snaps, or there's Quinzel Johnson or stuff like that. And I'm like, there's a serious need here at safety. So going back to the main point here, seeing that need, Justin Simmons and his camp have to be very aware of the opportunity here. So again, I think it comes down to, is the priority playing time? Is the priority getting a 2-year deal? Is the priority going to a team where you feel you will win the Super Bowl? If it's playing time and a shot, the Steelers make so much sense for Justin Simmons, because he'll come in here and he'll, I have full confidence that he could push Juan Thornhill and probably edge him out as the starting safety. And even if he doesn't, I'm so much more confident in a rotation of he and Thornhill rather than Thornhill, Sebastian Castro, and me or you, depending on the Sunday.
Yeah, look Justin Simmons should get a starting role somewhere. And in years past, I'm not looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers as a potential landing spot. Today, I am, and it would not surprise me if they did. And we'll get to some questions here in a minute, but he's on a very short list of guys that I could expect to come to Pittsburgh between now and early training camp or before training camp. And I wouldn't say that in years past, but as we've talked plenty in this episode, things are different. And because of that, I think the door is certainly open. All right, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we're going to start answering all your questions. So toss them in the chat. We will be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to our members. Toss your questions in the chat. We'll get to them as we're rolling here. I want to start off with Heath. This one made me smile. I noticed the other day when I was making social media clips that there are all these little clips that pop up that I'm just kind of casually, and you're talking about something real serious, and I'm just looking in the corner, just smiling. And that's because people comment things that get me to giggle. Heath, this one got me. I had a great question, but I was typing as I was typing, you answered. So here's the tip. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Heath.
I'm glad that I answered the question. Bless light, Jacob. There's a great video from Brett Coleman that explains how teams get away with the cap shenanigans. I have not seen the video, but it is true. There's, the salary cap's a myth. It's real. It catches up to you eventually. The Saints are there, but you could play with it for a long time. And if you play with it successfully, you could get away with it for quite a bit of time. The Steelers are pretty good at walking the line successfully. I would say the Steelers have always been pretty good at that.
I would say so. Appreciate the rec, Blessed Light. I will be checking that out probably about 10 minutes after we finish up here.
For sure. Good old Chris. Guys, I like Porter and Ramsey as our starting corners. I want Simmons at safety, and I'm concerned that Slay might have knee issues. Should I be worried? No, I think we talked about this yesterday. The report that came out, the whole Steelers veteran corner Darius Slay had in scope surgery 2 years ago. I don't know. I'm not really worried about it. Do I think that there's a fall off coming? Yeah, he's 34 years old. I think that happens to everybody, but I don't look at Darius Slay as a guy that I think his knee's going to explode in the middle of the season. I think things are going to be just fine. I also think that Jalen and Joey are pretty good. Do you think there's a shot Jalen starts over Darius Slay? You think that's a real outcome here?
No, I don't think it's a real outcome. I really don't. I think they brought Darius Slay in here to seriously be the other starting cornerback opposite Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Ramsey is now the X factor that they can move all around the board, the chess piece. They can move all around and play to their liking, so to speak. But no, I do think Darius Slay was brought in to be a starter, and I don't see Ramsey being the starter over him. All three on the field at the same time, I foresee that happening for sure, but not Ramsey over Slay to begin with.
I don't know what to expect. I kind of think it makes more sense for Jalen to start over Darius, but I also think that the Steelers might have some issues on their hands if that is the case, if that does end up being the case. Name more here. What non-wide receiver would be most interested in the Steelers? Would you be most interested in the Steelers pursuing realistic options? Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon are my two for sure. Realistic options. That might be it. Like, do the Steelers have other holes that they need to fill that you think they might?
No, offensive line, I know we keep talking about.
Yeah, but I don't think realistically they're going to go after anybody.
Yeah, right. And it's not like I'm going to be like, well, let's go just find some other body to bring in. There's no, that might be realistic to sign. Yeah, I'd like to think that someone like a Jordan Whitehead is still a realistic option too.
Yeah.
Not because it's a better option than either of the two you just named at safety, but I think just, all of the options are clearly on the table for the Steelers here as far as bringing another safety. But yeah, I think the most realistic options, to sum it all up, are in the secondary.
For sure. Carl Spackler's got two of them here. Noah, anytime Noah's a little late, I think he's about to drop some banger news. That is not the case, dude. I just jump on at like 3:57, and then me and Jacob start talking about something random, and then I go, oh shit, it's 4:02. So that's on me. I'm a lollygagger. Always been a lollygagger. Always will be a lollygagger. Carl Spackler, once again, is it possible the biggest issue with TJ is his agent? And then good old Tyler follows it up. Conspiracy theory. What if the media is paying TJ Watt and his camp not to sign just so they can have stories this time of year? I'll tell you this, pal, and we'll get to Carl here because that's the real one. I cannot afford TJ Watt. Okay. I cannot. I buy my Ghost energy drinks 2 at a time because they're 2 for $5 sometimes, and I will drive to 7-Eleven every day to go get them. And that is what we do. I buy 1 case of water at a time so that I can convince myself every time I get to the end of it to replace the filter in my fridge, which I never do. And I buy the value pack of sticky notes because you got to save those couple of cents, pal. I promise you, I can't afford TJ Watt. And man, I would love to be able to afford some TJ Watt conspiracy, but it would not happen. Now, the agent, you think TJ Watt's agent's holding this up, or you think it's TJ?
Ooh, now there's some juicy speculation. I imagine his agent is terrible, and that's not an attack on the agent. That is a compliment to the agent. The agent should be I would not be surprised. Again, total conjecture, totally me thinking out loud here. I would not be surprised, much like last time these negotiations went down with TJ Watt, that he might be ready to give in a little bit sooner. He might be ready to make the next move and be like, I'm not leaving till we get this deal done. This is what you know what I mean? I think his agent is rightfully so, knows that they have leverage, knows that they can afford to be patient, and he knows that they can afford to manipulate through the media and just sort of see where this goes, and it will probably end up in his favor. So yes, I think the agent might be a problem, but I think it's just like incredibly good and effective negotiation tactic. And if so, that means his agent's not is an issue for the fans, an issue for the Steelers, but is a freaking asset to TJ Watt.
You're about to get aggregated by 100 people saying, remember when we had to talk about Aaron Rodgers and his agent holding things up because Florio said, oh, agents, he wants more money. 10 M's, brother. He got 10 M's. Agents have a hold on these things, and they certainly have some input on what's going on. But at the end of the day, TJ wants guaranteed money. He understands the value, and it's so early. That's the part of this that, he signed 2 days before week 1 last time. So it's so early that I think we are more worried than he and the Steelers are. And I think that is, at the end of it, why it seems bigger than just, a normal negotiation. Chris, Houston is loaded with wide receiver talent. Do you agree that the Texans are the right team to trade with, or do you think Olave to the Saints should be number one? I think Olave is the one that I would choose, depending on price, obviously. Houston's got some names. My issue with Houston is like John Mechie doesn't entice me anymore. We're past that. Christian Kirk entices me, but are you going to give him up after you just signed him? I don't know. Tank Dell would be awesome, but I don't know if he's even going to play this season. Houston's loaded with talent. I just don't think that the guys that they'd be willing to give up, I'd be looking at as, an upgrade over what the Steelers have. I was asked recently, if you had to predict the Steelers wide receiver 2 right now, come week 1, who would it be? I said Roman Wilson. That was my guess, because that's who the Steelers are looking at right now. But yeah, I would go Chris Olave.
Yeah, I don't think there is a better fit for the Steelers offense, a better complement for DK Metcalf, a better long-term solution for the wide receiver depth issue than Chris Olave. Yeah, there is a lot of talent in Houston. I'm bullish on a lot of them still, kind of like Noah is. I think there's a team like Green Bay has a ton of talent as well. It's just which ones are available, and which ones can you pry away for the right cost from Green Bay. But all that said, all that considered, I still see Chris Olave as like the one wide receiver who feels like a solution to the problem rather than an attempt to be the solution to the problem, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. And that's my thing is last year we tossed every name out there because it was like an upgrade. You just had to get somebody on the field. I think the Steelers have done enough right now where like you need the right person on the field. And that's a better way to go about it. Big Al, I think we should target a young offensive tackle to play swing, no more than a 4th-round pick, and sign Simmons. Then we'll take a look at wide receiver. I don't know I don't think a swing tackle is on the horizon for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it's on their mind right now. I do think safety is. I think it's top priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now is safety. Then wide receiver. I don't think it stinks. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you or anybody else who says the Steelers should add a swing tackle. I just don't think it's on their mind, heading into training camp.
I think in terms of like satisfying that desire or acquiring a player who fits that role that isn't actually ready to be a starter. Like I'm not very well versed in offensive linemen. I'll be the first to admit. So I'm not I can't go through a Rolodex of all 7 linemen in all 32 NFL teams, but I am very much struggled to say what swing tackles would even be available to either go out and acquire. And again, that would actually be a 6th or 7th tackle, not a younger, recent pick, someone like a Calvin Anderson or a Mason McCormick or someone, just to these are guys who are mid to late round picks who have promise, but haven't quite shown it yet. There's not a lot of guys that teams are willing to give up on that early because they probably see them as long-term starters in their own organization. So that type of swing tackle is harder to find. You just hope that you get someone right in the sweet spot of not ready to be a starter yet, but too good to be on your bench all the time. And maybe Calvin Anderson or Dylan Cook has kind of grown into that for the 2025 season, but outside of the organization, I don't know where an answer lies.
Yeah, that's the thing is we'd have to start looking, and I just don't think the Steelers are right now. I agree with you. That's what they should be doing, but I just don't think the Steelers are. I don't. Heard of practice. What gets filled first, receiver, safety, or neither? Mine safety. The Steelers, in my head, have safety as the top of their priority list. If you asked me, you only get to pick one, what position do the Steelers fill this offseason? It's safety. I think they add a safety. I'm not 100% sold that they add a wide receiver yet. I think that they will, but I'm not guaranteeing it. I feel much more confident that they're going to add a safety.
Same. Yeah. Same. Another day of me being confident that another wide receiver is probably not joining this room right now. As much as I love the speculation and the conversations of who might be a good fit and stuff like that, I just really am entrenched in this belief that I don't think the Steelers think they need to add anyone else to their wide receiver room before the season starts. So safety it is.
Safety it is. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the only position that they add from here until, I mean, Schefter said it today, the Steelers are done. I don't think so. But, I do think that they're getting very close to being done. Schefter also said that let's make some things clear here. Okay. Schefter also said that it's very unlikely Jalen Ramsey ends up in Pittsburgh and Jonnu Smith ends up in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah. Wonder what happened there. Oh, wait. They ended up in Pittsburgh.
You sure about that?
They did. They ended up in Pittsburgh. They did. Chris here.
Here's the only other thing about like Schefter's thing that makes me almost now more certain that they're going to make another move is like in the exact quote, he was like, I don't see any other moves they can make. And it's like, you should listen to like 15 minutes ago of our conversation because I couldn't name the third safety in the competition. You know what I mean? So like I could tell you a couple moves they could make. So like that's not the case. Yeah. So it's not that. It's just so I don't know. Maybe safety feels like something is going to happen before training camp.
Yeah, shout out to Schefter, man. That guy's got a pulse on everything except for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, which I don't know why, but it's there. It's there. Chris, guys, I love Khan, but if he has a 41-year-old quarterback that can't run and adding a swing tackle isn't a concern, then he is nuts. The O-line needs depth bad. We agree. The Steelers just look at it and say Calvin Anderson is the swing tackle. And I don't think that's the right move, but that's how the Steelers view it. But we agree with you. The Steelers need a swing tackle. They should go out and look at somebody. I'll pull up the free agent list now, but I don't know who's out there. I don't know who they could still look at to be a swing tackle to say, we have an opening. You're not starting. Come to us. Who's on? Jedrick Wills is called it a season. He's going to play next year. Maybe George Fant is a name to watch. He's played everywhere. Andrew Piat, maybe, but he's not real good. Isaiah Wynn's still out there. That's an interesting one to me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Not the worst name. Michael Dunn's still out there. LaRaven Clark. Let's not do that again. Chris Hubbard, 34 years old, but
still playing.
He is. Damn. Played for the Giants last year. Jermaine Ifedi. That's actually, to be honest, like he played everywhere for Cleveland last year and wasn't the worst. Definitely wasn't the worst. But there's just no good names. It is very thin in the free agency market.
And even if they bring in any one of those that sterling gold list that you just named, like even if one of those players comes in, they are still one injury away, specifically at tackle, from just being everything's ruined, and then now all of a sudden, as if there isn't, I know we haven't talked about the pressure on Troy Fautanu because he feels like such a certainty, but the man has not yet played an NFL game. Broderick Jones seems improved. He's, jovial as can be heading into the season, but like so much to prove. One of them gets hurt. Calvin Anderson or Dylan Cook is your starter, or Isaiah Wynn off the couch is your starter. Like your line depth is still ruined. So the fact that they could still make another move to add to it, but still be in just one injury away, not multiple, one from just the whole line just blowing up is concerning. So yeah, we agree. It's a concern for this season, but the Steelers have a faith in their offensive line depth that is not mirrored on all Steelers talk at the moment.
No, not anything that I think, they'd listen to us with, at least at this point. Roger Steeler here. Hypothetical. Watt plays the last year of his contract and sets the sack record and says next summer, okay, now it's time to negotiate. Wow. I'll tell you this. The Steelers are and I can't emphasize this enough, fucked if TJ Watt goes out and breaks the sack record and then tries to negotiate next season. Do you know how screwed you are? Do you know what you've just done if you let him go do that? You're looking at TJ Watt's getting $45 million a year. He's getting 3 years of guaranteed money, which is now his year 34 season. He's eventually going to fall off a cliff. Like, this happens all the time. I mean, you're so screwed if you're the Steelers and you let that happen. They should have did it last year. Think about the situation here, okay? We talked about it earlier. TJ Watt wants a third-year guaranteed money, which would make him 33. If the Steelers negotiate last year, you want to know where that third-year guaranteed money is? 32, the same year as Myles Garrett, which makes everything fine because you feel great guaranteeing a guy at 32 years old some money. He's only 32 years old. Edge rushers still play at 32 years old, and they play fine at 32 years old. 33, nah, you're getting old. You're getting up there. So the Steelers already screwed themselves last year. If they go into next year and he has a year, they're fucked. There's no other way to put it. They're fucked.
Yeah, man. Here's my hypo off of that. That he makes $50 million a year. But what I do really want to see, this is 100% serious and not going to be a joke at all, is whenever TJ Watt makes his first sack of the season, I would like to see him lift his son like Rafiki lifting Simba in a sort of like Lion King like moment. I want that to be his first sack celebration. So total hypo, not a joke.
Where would he get his son? Does he just pull him off of the sideline?
Someone's gonna have to keep him on the sideline and be close. Yeah, I mean,
it's like second down. Everybody's like, yeah. There's another play. What are you doing? And he's just out here holding a baby in the middle of the field.
Come on. You think TJ Watt could make a sack while holding his son? I believe it.
I do too. I think that's the kid might be in some trouble, but you know what I mean? We'll deal with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll deal with that when it comes. Great hypothetical here, Roger. Grace and the Ginger, Noah, I know nobody wants to even think about this, but it needs to be asked. How much compensation do the Steelers stand to have if they trade Watt? Who should they trade him to? This is wild, man. First off, it is wild. It's crazy that we're still talking about this, but at the same time, it's early. Like, these negotiations typically go into training camp. This isn't new. This isn't unheard of. This isn't, some very rare situation. It's way too early to be nervous. I'm not nervous yet. When I start getting nervous, I'll let you guys know. When I start getting nervous about the Steelers not signing TJ Watt, that's when you guys could be like, all right, maybe there's something maybe we should kind of take this a little bit seriously. But until then, we're good. It's early. Things are going to be fine. August 8th, I'm still pretty okay. September 8th or September 10th, yeah, all right, I'm freaking out a little bit. But until then, we got time. I don't think the Steelers get more than like a second and a third for TJ Watt. I think that's probably the most they'd get. And maybe a late first round pick to like the Lions or somebody. But I think you're getting a second and a third, two day 2 picks. I think that's what you're getting for TJ Watt.
Yeah, the sad reality is that the trade market value for TJ Watt is not commensurate with like the how talented a player he is. It's just not. It's unfair. It's not right. It wouldn't be anything that anyone would deem sufficient enough of a return for TJ Watt. So yeah, it's hard to talk about, where they should maybe send him to or sort of like targets and things like that, because the NFL will lowball the Steelers so hard in a hypothetical TJ Watt trade situation that it would be so disappointing to everyone to see the actual results if it came true.
Yes. And people have opinions on if they got fleeced or if they won the trade or lost the trade. I'd look at it simply as you made a trade at TJ Watt. You lost, you got rid of TJ Watt. You are the loser of that trade at the end of the day. But again, I think it's too early. I wouldn't be super worried about it. There are a couple people in here that are laughing that I said the F word for like the first time maybe ever on this show, which is
I
just had to emphasize. I'd emphasize it enough to make sure everybody knows just how screwed the Steelers are. If you like, that would be the worst case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is to let TJ Watt go into the season without a deal and like it just, hope for the best. No, if you let TJ Watt go into the season, you hope TJ sucks. Like, you hope he's garbage.
Right.
But if you let him go in and you're looking for there is no negotiation next year. The negotiation is, you owe me so much money, give it to me. And you're going to have to give it to him. So that's hilarious. I'll try not to use that word anymore, but you know what I mean? My mom's going to watch and she's going to be, I'm going to get a text. No, what do you know?
I try to how your mom sounds, but that's just anytime I envision getting yelled at, that's my voice.
It's pretty accurate. You got to add a Noah John in there. I get a Noah John.
That's the middle. If you get middle named after this, dude, you're done.
I'm a 29-year-old man. You know what I mean? There's still a chance I'm getting smacked upside the head by my mom if the middle name comes out. There's 100%. I'm nervous.
Did your mom ever actually wash your mouth out with soap or put?
No. I got the wooden spoon, dude.
Oh, I'd get my mouth washed out with soap or pepper on the tongue if I would speak out of line or like talk back to my mom. I love pepper now, so joke's on her. But if I don't know if y'all could guess, I got a little bit of a sarcastic wit to me. It's been like that since I was a kid. And my mom, who probably is listening to this as well and will attest to the fact that I was a little shithead. So I got my mouth washed out and some pepper on my tongue quite a few times. So Noah is going to as well tonight.
Yeah. No, I was the wooden spoon. You knew it coming. I heard that. I could still, dude. I'd have nightmares about the sound of I knew the drawer. You know what I mean? I knew the sound of the drawer that was open, and I was like, whoo! And then you'd run upstairs and you'd hide in the bathroom, but our bathroom door didn't lock. You know what I mean?
No.
Oh, bathroom door couldn't lock. So you'd have to stand there and just brace yourself as hard as you could while your mom's pushing on the other side, but you're like 10 years old. So you lost that battle.
It's like The Shining.
When she got in there, brutal, man. Shout out my mom. Love her with my whole heart.
That has to be an Italian thing, right?
Yeah, dude. She learned it from my grandma. And when Graham pulled out the wooden spoon, dude.
Oh shit.
My, you better run away, bro. You better you leave the house. You don't even think about it, because those are not your mom's slaps of the wooden spoon. That's your grandma who went to school getting hit with a belt or something. You know what I mean? Like she went to school with nuns. You know, she's a different breed, different breed. Oh yeah, dude. Graham with the wooden spoon. She had a wooden spoon at her house. She had a dedicated wooden spoon just to beat the grandkids with. Yeah. And you knew it, dude. You knew it. It was, oh God. She never once cooked with it. Ever. It was probably little pieces of blood on there that she couldn't put in the not put in the soup. You know what I'm saying? Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Ham sandwich here. How much cap space do the Steelers have if Ramsey's cap hit is $7 million? I don't know an exact answer to that, to be honest with you. I do think that the Steelers cap hit is going to be just about $6.5-7 million bucks. I think it leaves them somewhere around, I want to say $18 million before TJ Watt, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, dude, we got people in here with the wooden spoon, the rolling pin talking.
The rolling pin. Oh,
if you run, you got it worse. You already know. Yep.
Over the cap has them with this latest Jalen Ramsey stuff, which is like not 100% up to date as far as my understanding is. But right now the Steelers have about $14.5 million in cap space today. That could change tomorrow. But that's plenty heading into training camp. So
yeah, I agree. And again, it's not accurate. There needs to be more information, but the more we learn, it looks like Jalen's cap hit's low this year. Next year, it's going to be big, $26 million somewhere in that ballpark. But that was Minka's this year. So you save some money for sure. Chris, why not sign Watt to a 2 or 3 year contract? Watt surely deserves $40 million a year, but a fourth or fifth year at that price isn't a good idea. Thoughts? That's the TJ thing. That's where the tie up is the Steelers need to make it 4 or 5 years. They need to make it 5 years realistically for TJ Watt, because they have to create a way to spread out the hits that they're going to take on their cap. If you do 3 years, you are really limiting yourself. Those cap hits are ridiculous. So you need to spread it out. That's the problem, which again, it's not the length of contract. That is not like the length of contract is a conversation to have. And the Steelers aren't super thrilled with that, but I don't think that's what the big holdup is. I think the big holdup is the guaranteed money and how far out it goes. And he wants a 3-year guarantee. The Steelers don't want to give it to him. I think that's what's holding up these conversations. I think a 4 or 5 year deal is a must almost, because you could get out of TJ's in 4 years for minimal damage, but if you need to get out of it in 3, then you probably just gave up $35 million guaranteed of a cap hit, and that's way worse than like the 8 that you'd give up in dead money for a roster bonus, something like that.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're going to settle somewhere on like a 5-year contract for sure, but it's going to kind of echo what Noah is saying here. It's going to, in essence, be a 3-year deal. Like I think the 3rd year is going to get guaranteed. There will be some massive amount of financial compensation as part of the 3-year guarantee. It might be a 5-year contract as reported, but like we'll all know that once the guaranteed money ends and doesn't extend into years 4 and 5, it'll basically be looked at as a 3-year deal that the Steelers could then kind of cut ties with him afterwards. And then that I think that would work. If TJ gets the bag and that guaranteed money, then hopefully that satisfies he and his side's wants, and the Steelers get their best defensive player back before the season starts. So
yeah,
win-win to me.
I agree. Hurt at practice. When our quarterbacks get hurt, we're like, oh, well, I'm sure everything will be okay. When TJ gets hurt, we throw things and yell, there goes our season. That's exactly it. Like TJ, and don't get me wrong, he's been beat up the last couple of years, but I don't think people take that into account of last year, like dealing with a hip flexor, an ankle sprain, like the thumb thing. Like, he wasn't 100% by the end of last season. He needs to be 100%. It's crucial for the Steelers' success. But TJ's so like, you don't replace TJ this year. You can replace him next year. You can replace him 2 years from now and go on the journey of trying to figure that out, which isn't going to be easy. You're not going to do it in one season. It's going to take some time, but at some point, everybody's got to do it. But if you're trying to win a Super Bowl in 2025, you just don't. Like, if TJ gets hurt week 1, the Steelers' chances of a Super Bowl drop more than 50%. And that's just how crucial and important TJ Watt is. Like, it can't be understood. There's nobody more valuable to the Pittsburgh Steelers this season than TJ Watt. I truly, truly believe. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, but it's TJ Watt.
It's just, the Steelers are 1-11 without TJ Watt since he's joined the team. They've won games with like not good quarterbacks. And I'm not saying an edge rusher is inherently more important than a star quarterback or having the Super Bowl quarterback on your team, right? That's not what I'm saying here. But for the Steelers, they have shown that they can make the playoffs with an average quarterback at best. They cannot win games when they don't have their best defensive player. So unless they suddenly replace TJ Watt with someone else as their new best defensive player, they will continue to not win without their best defensive player. So I just don't see any other way around it. Like, they need him in there. Otherwise, they won't be successful, because they have not shown since 2017 that they can be successful when TJ Watt's not on the field. So, they won without Russell Wilson. They won some games without Justin Fields. They won some games with Kenny Pickett.
Shout out Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky, my friend. Mason freaking Rudolph. Nate Moore. What's the price for Chris Olave? What about Jordan Addison? I don't think Jordan Addison's available for trade. Maybe at the end of this season he could be, but I don't think Minnesota has any thoughts of giving up Jordan Addison entering his third year in the NFL, looking damn good over with the Vikings. Chris Olave, I've heard, is a second-round pick. That'll go down to a third, but I've heard it's a second-round pick. I'm not giving up a second-round pick for Chris Olave. Not right now. You want to have that conversation after I see Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin and Jonnu Smith? Sure. But in July, no, I'm not having that conversation. I just think that at some point the Saints are going to realize they suck, and the Saints are going to realize they should move some people, and his trade value goes down. And I just think waiting is the better option, because right now, Chris Olave for a second is a risk, because what if he suffers his 5th concussion and then, never plays in the NFL again? Right. Chris Olave for a third, I could kind of get behind. I feel like that makes sense.
That's a steal, honestly, because it's just at that point you're taking a flyer on someone who has nothing but upside. And if you spent a 3rd-round pick in retrospect for a player who maybe never plays for you, then that's just an average draft. There's what, 1 or 2 players maybe make an NFL team after they get drafted. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a small amount. So I'd be willing to roll the dice on that. 2nd-round pick's too early right now, but I think the closer we get to the season, and if the season starts and the Steelers are like, oh, it's just that piece, right? It's just that second wide receiver. No one can fill the void. Then just go spend it. If they're still a good team and they still seem like a contender a few weeks in, then overpay for a 2nd-round pick and get Chris Olave. But right now, you don't have to do that. They're not that desperate.
No. Broderick Wallace here. Are you excited to see some 13 personnel packages in training camp? I am super excited to see some 13 personnel packages in training camp. Look, I think the Steelers should always play 12 and 13 personnel. Like, that's put all your tight ends on the field at all times. I love it. I think that's the best way to go about it. Put DJ Thomas Jones as your fullback, run heavy all the time. I think that's the way to go. I think it's the way to go, especially if you don't have some tight end or some wide receivers. I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty excited to. It's wild to think that training camp is 2 weeks away today, but wow. I'm pretty. Yeah, right. We're almost back. We are almost back. Crazy times. Nate Moore's got another one here. Who has a better second season with the Steelers, Patrick Queen or Deshaun Elliott? I think Patrick Queen has more to prove. I think Deshaun Elliott's a stud, man. I think he was the best player on the Steelers defense at the end of last season. So I'm going Deshaun Elliott.
I think it has to be Deshaun Elliott. The middle linebacking group has options, right? Holcomb should be a contributor. Peyton Wilson should be taking another step. It's not to say that Patrick Queen will, be consumed by that other depth. But as we talked about all episode, the safety, the secondary is way more of a concern. And Deshaun Elliott is the best piece of it, the leader of it right now. He's got to be the one who has the better second year, because the Steelers desperately need it.
Yes, 100%. Without it, it's not great. Tortellini salad. Did you see that the Steelers got graded a C this offseason and the Browns got a B? What on earth the Browns ever going to be better than the Steelers? Never. I saw this grade and my thought went, Kenny Joe Dylan Shadur. That was better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, maybe, probably not, but maybe. They also lost Nick Chubb. I think they got another wide receiver at some point. I don't remember who it is. And they lost Juan Thornhill. Like, I don't know, maybe, but I think the Steelers offseason is much higher than a C. And I think that, I think the draft class alone, Caleb Johnson, Derek Harmon, Y.E. Black, Jack Sawyer, like, gives me enough to feel pretty good about where this team's headed, especially for not having a 2nd-round pick. I don't think I'd give him a C.
I think there's like pros and cons to the Steelers offseason, and you can, say that maybe it wasn't a home run.
Oh, yeah, definitely not a home run.
Pieces, you don't get the franchise quarterback like everyone's hoping for. I think like a B-, like maybe even a C+ is like totally a fair grade, but like the wide receiver the Browns brought in was Deontay Johnson, and
that's who it was.
And Kenny Pickett, So like, if that's I mean, I guess the Myles Garrett extension like is the prevailing reason they got to be because he's the golden boy. But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. That doesn't make any sense to me. Makes none.
No, I 100% agree with that. Steelers unluckiest reindeer. No, I'm not going to lie, but I debated between this name and Acrisure retirement home for a week straight. I think either one of them was fantastic. Like, it's just so good, dude. They're so good. Shout out to some great names. We got some great names in the chat, man. And this one is for sure up there. For sure up there. Enigma After Dark. What about a player for a player trade with Broderick Jones to upgrade a tackle? Could it happen? Who would be realistic? Realistically, no. Like, realistically, the Steelers have zero interest in trading Broderick Jones. They've waited a long time to put him at left tackle. At the end of the season, or maybe even by the trade deadline, yeah, maybe. But they have, like, I know for you know, I don't want to say fact, but I know that the Steelers have no interest in trading Broderick Jones, and that they have no interest in benching Broderick Jones, and they still feel very confident in Broderick Jones. So I don't think realistically it could happen. Who it could happen for, I mean, I don't know. We'd have to sit down and look at left tackles and see who's available or who's potentially available. But to get a guy, you'd probably have to get an older veteran for a younger guy, because it'd be a team looking to, like, you'd have to convince that team that Broderick's good enough to trade for a guy that's better than him. And because of that, it'd have to be an aging veteran. But they have no interest right now in trading Broderick Jones.
Yeah, and it's still, I would not be for a Broderick Jones being included in a trade, because I think it still puts them in a very similar situation if he leaves the team even for an upgrade, because you're still an injury away from this team, from that position group just being like mediocre, So I think while Broderick Jones is a question mark pertaining to the overall strength of the offensive line, if he's gone, the same lack of depth issue is still there. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. And if I couldn't, name Isaiah Wynn, I don't have anyone offhand that they could help trade for. So my apologies, Enigma After Dark. I like the thought line. I just can't.
Yeah. I just don't know names off the top of my head. I don't keep track of the left tackle trade market, but I just don't think the Steelers have interest. Come week 8, that's a conversation. But for right now, I don't know. Got two more here. Steelers Nation has Asante Samuel Jr. passed his physical yet. That'll come that'll come near the end of July. I believe it's July 22nd, July 24th, something in that ballpark is when he is scheduled for one. And then from there, he'll, look into teams and we'll see what happens. I don't think the Steelers are on his radar right now, but, probably could change. We'll see what happens. And we'll finish off with this one. Hurt at practice, start, bench, cut, Italian food, football, Jacobs, Mr. Rogers sweaters. Unreal on this one.
Man.
I got a hard time getting rid of the sweaters, my friend. I got a hard time getting rid of the sweaters. But I'm starting Italian food always.
Yeah.
Taking the heartburn. Sorry, football, dude. Sundays are great. And I'll miss you. But pasta, pizza, cannolis at all times.
Yeah.
I think I'm benching football, dude. I think you're going to have to learn how to wear some t-shirts.
No. Oh, dude.
What's your sweater ratio? How many sweaters you got in the closet?
It's like as many t-shirts as I
only have like 11 t-shirts. I'm going to be real.
I don't have a lot of t-shirts. I'd say I probably got
90 sweaters.
Yeah, I've got about 4,000 sweaters. No, I have like 15 sweaters in my closet. Judge me. I don't care. I am who I am. And I wear them all the time. Listen, this is probably the worst answer for someone co-hosting a football podcast, but you know which one I cut? Rhymes with Dutball. And I would keep my sweaters. I'd bench them, but I'd keep them, and I'd eat it. I'm never gonna not eat Italian food. So
no,
I don't know what that says about me. But
did you? We'll finish it off with this comment here. I tried the Dubai chocolate yesterday? I was telling you about it. $15. I went to a coffee shop, bought a coffee, a little tiny bar. It was this big. There's 4 pieces of Whoa, that one was crazy. We've never gotten that one before. a tiny, a little 4-piece chocolate bar. And I was like, all right, well, I'll take one of these. Figured I'd try it with my wife, get a coffee. The bill's $27 or something. And I was like, the hell did I just buy? Like, what is this? Tasted it. Not worth, decent chocolate bar, worth $15. No chance in hell. Maybe a $6 candy bar max. For anybody who's willing to try it. No, not happening. Not happening, pal. Sorry.
Damn. That's such a disappointment.
Nah, it
I'm all
be.
for the like specialty chocolate, but man, it's got to be worth the price. That's a pretty penny.
Dude, go buy Feastables or something. They're delicious. The Feastable Reese's things are best chocolate I've had. Dubai, nah, grainy, tastes like pistachio. I like pistachio. I'll just buy some pistachios and a chocolate bar. Cost me $11, and I'll get 2 snacks instead of 1 4-piece chocolate. So
shout out
that.
How about that
one? And with that rant, we're heading out here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Remember, tomorrow we are giving away the good old Chubby's golf polo. So make sure that you are last minute tossing it. Your entry in the community page. It has links to the Facebook and the Twitter posts where you can enter. All you have to do is give us a 5-star review on the audio downloads. Toss your screenshot in one of the posts, and we will pick 2 winners. Then from those 2 winners, we'll just pick a name out of a hat. Between the 2, one of them will get the Chubby's polo. The other one will get an AST t-shirt. So make sure that you're tossing those in there. And with that said, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow morning. It's a Friday. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.